What's going on, everybody? What I want to do in this video is go over the missing element of personal development. This is an element that's hardly ever, and I mean ever, spoken about in any personal development book, in any personal development course, in any seminar that I've been to. And I've pretty much been to it all. I've read all the books, I've done all the courses, I've been to a couple of seminars, and I've never really heard people talk about this link. But the reason why I want to go over this is because I studied self development for a really, really long time. I'm 35 years old right now. And I got into personal development back in 2010 when I was about 20 years old. And I became obsessed. I became so obsessed. I've read every book, I did every seminar, I did every course. I spent a lot of money on personal development. And did I happen to make any change? And the answer is yes. However, there was a lot of work involved. And by the end of it, the work that I was putting in took a toll on me to the point where eventually I had an emotional breakdown back in 2020. So from 2010 to 2020, I was working on myself so much, and I did make a lot of money. I did change my life, so to speak. But for the most part, all I really did was build up a character, a persona. And I started to develop imposter syndrome. And it wasn't until 2020 when I was in the house during lockdown that I kind of discovered the missing link that really, really transformed my life once I truly started to implement this. But before I do that, what I really, really want to do is break down what personal development is. Now, more than likely, if you clicked on this video, you've probably read a couple of books on personal development and or have done some courses, and you're trying to make a change, you're trying to have a breakthrough, and it's just, is it working? Or if it is working, it's a lot of work. And when I say a lot of work, it's pretty much unmanageable. But what I want to do real quick is break down what personal development is. And for those that don't know, I'm a personal trainer and massage practitioner. And I came up with some metaphors and some acronyms to really, really break down what personal development is for the most part. So one of the acronyms I use is GYM, GYM. And as a trainer, I haven't worked in the gym since 2020, but as a trainer, I really, really, really loved using this acronym, GYM, GYM. Now, the G stands for goal, right? So if you're in personal development, you have to uncover what it is that you actually want. Is it more money? Is it more health? Is it a better relationship? Whatever it is that you want, that's the first key to self-development. Any personal development program is figuring out what you want. Now, if you actually understand what it is that you want, 9 times out of 10, you're ahead of 99% of the population. Because if you ask people what it is that they want, they just can't decide. And the reason for this is I believe that, the way the education system is set up today in the Western society, they don't really teach us how to decide. They don't really teach us how to commit. And, I have the saying, the fact that we're so free, it actually makes us a slave. I'll say that again. The fact that we're so free here in Western society, particular in America, it actually makes us a slave because we never learn how to commit because there's so much variety. Meaning once we decide on one thing, and it starts to get a little bit uncomfortable when we start doing this one thing, we start to seek elsewhere. We start to look elsewhere. It happens in relationships. It happens in career opportunities. It happens in any goal. It happens in programs. Once you start something and you're all excited about that, once this enthusiasm wears off, you start to actually get to the nitty gritty and start doing the hard work that's required to actually attain this goal and make this change. Once it starts to get a little bit hard, you start to get distracted and you think this thing is not for you and you're not passionate about it. And what do? You end up moving to something else. You don't commit. But if you're a person that truly knows what you want, what goal it is, it doesn't really matter what it is. If you just know what direction you're trying to get to, you're ahead of 99% of the population. All right. So that's the first thing. The G stands for goal, right? The next is why. And this is your why. These are your reasons why you want to attain the goal. Now, this is very, very powerful for me as a personal trainer who sells a lot of personal training. When I first meet somebody, I have to get to their reasons why they want to achieve what it is that they want to achieve. And these reasons are emotional. Now, there's only two reasons why somebody wants something. It's either they're trying to avoid pain or they're trying to pursue some type of pleasure. I'll say that again. You're either trying to avoid pain, you're trying to avoid a loss, or you're trying to pursue something that's desirable because it will give you some type of pleasurable feeling, right? Now, me as a trainer, as a salesperson, what I do is I find out both and I really, really hammer it down by drilling them with questions to really understand what it is that they want and why it is that they want it. And once I get to their why, their true reason why, which a lot of times it's emotional. As a trainer, when I used to work at the gym, I was known for making people cry within 10 minutes of meeting me because I would really, really drill down why it is that they wanted to make this transformation, why they wanted to change their body. And a lot of the times it was something to the degree, especially if they had kids, is they wanted to be a hero to the kids, or if they were a little bit overweight, they were afraid that their kids will follow in their footsteps and essentially their kids will end up becoming overweight. It was something to that degree. So once you hammer in and I understood their why, I could really make the sell and I could really, really start to motivate the person on attaining their goal. Now, for you, you have to understand why it is that you want something. Again, if you could figure out the painful reasons why you want something and the pleasurable reasons, you could really amplify it. And these are things that you could trigger yourself into action because not every day you're going to wake up motivated. But if you have a strong enough why, a strong enough reason, you could just remind yourself of that daily. You're more than likely to start taking action. All right. So then the next thing is the M. So there's the G, which is your goal, the Y, which is your why or your reasons. The M is your map, your action plan. And from there, what you do is literally Google, Chat GPT, whatever, an action plan out and follow the freaking steps. And it's really, really that simple. Anything you want to attain in life is really, really simple. However, it's not easy because it requires a lot of willpower. It requires a lot of effort. Why? Because whenever you try to do something new, your unconscious mind, more than likely your biology, doesn't like that. It doesn't like to be uncomfortable. Like this literally just happened to me maybe an hour ago. Right now in my apartment, it was a little bit cold. I had to put the heat on. But while it was cold, I was just in the shower. And while I was in the hot water, it was so comfortable that whenever the water got a little bit cold, I would make the water a little bit hotter. And I ended up staying in the shower a whole lot longer than I wanted to because I was afraid to get out and face the cold. My body was so comfortable. So the same thing's going to happen when you try to achieve your goal. Is your biology is going to be working against you because you have to carve in the new groove to make this new habit that you're trying to achieve or trying to do. You have to carve this groove out in your brain to make it effortless to the point where you're on autopilot just doing the actions, whether it's a workout plan. You got to get to the point where it's a habit, right? But that's the hard part, is making it a habit, because your neurology is always going to be working against you. Now, that's what personal development is find out what you want, why you want it, and then have an action plan, right? So Jim, goal, your why, your map, right? And that's really, really simple. But the next part of personal development, why you're doing this, is you have to learn to become aware of your thoughts, of your feelings. Because a lot of us, what personal development is about becoming more aware. So while you're trying to achieve this goal and while you're working towards achieving something, you're going to have thoughts about it, unconscious thoughts that are going to whisper in your ear. You're going to have a voice in there that's going to be whispering to you, telling you not to achieve it, why you're not good enough, why you shouldn't go for it, why it wouldn't be worth it, right? So when you have these thoughts, you have to become aware of it, because basically your thoughts, they say we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. And 95% of the thoughts you have today, you probably had yesterday, you probably had the day before. So they basically say our brain, our neurology is pattern based, is basically a program that's being run. And we, in a way, installed the program, not really, but it has been implanted into us to where we feel a certain way by a certain time, we think a certain thought at a certain time, and this is what's going on. So what personal development is basically becoming aware of that program. And once you become aware of that program and you see that it's running in a direction that you don't want it to go, you have to interrupt the program with a new thought. You have to start consciously and willfully planting in a new thought or a new action or a new behavior. So you have to interrupt the program and then redirect it to where you consciously want to go. So I'll give you an example. If you're trying to get in shape, you're trying to lose 20 pounds, and you know that you're supposed to work out. You're supposed to go to the gym after work. However, your third or fourth day in the gym, let's say you started on Monday and now it's Thursday, and your program and the motivation starts to wear off, and your program on Thursday, you're supposed to go to the gym right after work. But all of a sudden that old programming comes in and says, hey, you worked out for 3 days. Why not take the day off? Even though you're supposed to work out 5 days a week, take the day off. Your body's a little sore. This is too new. You're too tired. You got to wake up early tomorrow. All of these thoughts will come up. And more than likely, 9 times out of 10, unless you're a very willful person, because that enthusiasm is going to be gone, you're going to go home. You're going to listen to the thoughts. You're going to listen to the voice. You're going to listen to the feelings. And you're going to unconsciously just choose to go home. Now, some of us will fight it, which is great. And that's what personal development is about. Now, the way we fight it is what we do is we say, I have to go to the gym. I must go to the gym. I have a goal. I have a deadline. And you start implanting a new thought so you could feel a new way. And that way you actually continue with the program. However, what happens is it's exhausting. So what you're basically trying to do is you're trying to carve a new groove into your brain. That way you automatically just do the behavior you're supposed to do to get the result that you want. So basically what you got to do is become aware of those old thoughts that's holding you back. Then once those old thoughts come up, once you become aware of them, which is very, very difficult, by the way, but once you become aware of them, what you got to do is interrupt it. They talk a lot about, Tony Robbins used to talk a lot about, like, you got to scratch the CD, scratch the old CD player, scratch the recording. So you got to interrupt it. And if you scratch it enough, that programming will run. So you have to interrupt it and then direct it to where you want it to go. And that's something I did for 10 years, from the age of 20, from 2010 to 2020. I would interrupt that programming and direct it to where I'm supposed to go to achieve my goal. And was it worth it? Yes and no. It was worth it as far as yes, because I achieved some financial success. I achieved some relationship success. I hit some goals. However, it was emotionally draining, because this is the missing element of personal development that's never talked about, is the fact that I never actually released that old way of thinking, release that old pattern. I was always fighting with that old way of thinking. So what do I mean by that is those thoughts were still there. It's just that I would just constantly fight with it. And that's what personal development is about, is fighting with your thoughts. It's like you say, I'm not good enough. What you're supposed to do is go, I am good enough. I'm good enough. So if you have a negative thought, you overpower it with positive thoughts. And that's basically what personal development is. However, the missing link to personal development is spiritual development. Now, when I say spiritual development, A lot of people think of like the new age law of attraction. You got to manifest your thoughts, create your reality, try to vibrate on a higher frequency. And I I have a love hate relationship with that shit because, now that I study a lot of marketing, what I'm learning with the spiritual gurus, the new age gurus, where they say your thoughts create your reality, I've learned through marketing, direct response marketing, and studying ads that they're basically telling us what we want to hear. That it's easy, that all you got to do is sit on a couch and visualize what it is that you want and visualize your body that you want and get in alignment and vibrate at a higher frequency, and you'll start to attract what it is that you want into your life. And, I fell for that from maybe 2015 to about 2018, where I would do meditations, guided visualizations, law of attraction meditations. And this stuff was cool and all, but what it was like, it was always about chasing something. True spirituality is about arriving, and it's about releasing, and it's about letting go. And what the missing link in personal development is not fighting with the pattern, the old way of thinking. It's about releasing the old way of thinking. It's about experiencing the thoughts, the old way, the old thoughts. Like, for instance, if you hear the thought, I'm not good enough, you shouldn't go to the gym today. You should just sit back, go have the cheesecake. What spiritual development is about accepting the fact that the voice is there and releasing the pattern. How do you release the pattern? You have to become aware of it, just like in personal development. But as opposed to interrupting the thought, what you got to do is accept that the thoughts are there and experience the thought. You have a thought, you're going to experience the feeling in the body. And when you experience the feeling in the body, which does suck, by the way, it is painful. When you accept that it's there and you start to allow it to be there and allow it to flow and you don't resist it, eventually, as you practice this, you'll be able to release it all on its own. So that's the missing part in personal development that's never talked about. Is what you got to do is become aware, which is personal development. Become aware, but as opposed to interrupting it, accept it. Accept that it's there. Sit with it. Experience it fully. And as you experience it fully, and you understand that this too shall pass, what happens is you allow it to flow through your body and you release it. Now, this is a very, very difficult process, but once you learn how to do it, it's very, very powerful. And, I talked about this in previous videos, which is, how to let go is all you got to do, become aware, accept that it's there, experience it fully. And then once you experience it fully, you'll be able to release it. Now, it might take some time, but if you learn to practice this over and over again throughout the day, because you're getting triggered constantly, becoming more aware of the thoughts and feelings in your body, if you learn how to step back from it and experience it in a way, really, really, in a way that you just release it, and it becomes a practice, it pretty much becomes a whole lot easier to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. It makes that gym, that goal, the goal, your why, your map, it makes your game plan a whole lot easier. There's no more resistance. You just become aligned with what it is that you truly want and the actions that you have to take. You don't have to fight with that voice anymore. You accept that the voice is there, you experience it fully, and then once you experience it fully, you can release it, and then you can just move to the direction that you want to move to, as opposed to old school personal development books, which was become aware of the voice, interrupt the voice, and then redirect it. So, old school personal development is about fighting with that voice. And I'm going to tell you this, if you continue to fight with that voice, it becomes very, very frustrating. It becomes emotionally draining. And so what you got to do is accept that the voice is there. Now, you can read books like Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul, or David Hawkins' book, Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender, is a really, really good start if you're already reading personal development books. But that's the nutshell. It's understanding what it is that you want, why you want it, and then your game plan to get it, your map. And then from there, understand along your journey, thoughts are going to pop up, feelings are going to pop up because you're trying to achieve something new. It's very, very unfamiliar. What you got to do is accept that those patterns are there and experience it fully. That way you can release the pattern. And once you release the pattern, it almost becomes effortless for you to go to what it is that you truly want. As opposed to the old school way, which was becoming aware of the thoughts and feelings, fighting with it by interrupting it, saying, no, I'm not going to think this. I'm going to think this instead. I'm going to try to overpower the voice and then direct it to a new way. So that's the missing element of personal development. And this is something I'm trying to bring more to the table, especially with my clients, because when I teach them this, first of all, it's very, very difficult. It's a tough thing to do, to experience all of our bad feelings fully so we let them go. But I always tell them that pain is the pathway to freedom. You know, you have to die to be reborn. You have to learn to unlearn your patterns. What a lot of us are trying to do is try to like forget that we had those old patterns or old thoughts and try to will our way to think a new way. But the fact that that those old thoughts are still going to be there and you're constantly fighting with it, and this constantly a tug of war, you're more than likely going to lose. So this is the missing element of personal development that's never talked about. I hope you got a lot of value from it. And my girlfriend just woke up, so that means I got to end the video now. So if you like the video, please like. Also, please comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Peace.